Hey.
We need to take this to the grave. We cannot tell anybody. This changes literally this changes everything.
No, I know. We can never tell.
I might actually puke. Get back. I'm gonna puke. Stay back.
Oh.
So the director's cuts for Rebel Moon are out, and they're basically the same movies. I wanted to review the PG-13 versions a while back, but opted not to for a few reasons. For one, they're not the versions of the movie that Zack had originally intended, and you can really tell. Some scenes are cut awkwardly in order to hide gore, scenes feel rushed in order to get to the next action sequence, and the characters barely have any conversations with each other, which made me believe that the characters interact with each other more in the director's cut. The second reason is everyone on the internet already ragged on these movies so hard to the point I didn't really want to add to the Rebel Moon hate train. Making fun of movies is fun, but when almost every movie critic on YouTube is making fun of these movies, it doesn't become fun anymore. These censored versions are a joke, and Snyder himself even thinks they're a joke. They're not good, and majority of the people on the internet agree with that statement. The only people who genuinely like these movies are his hardcore fans, and they literally can't bring themselves to criticize his work. They love his movies so much that some believe critics on YouTube are being paid to hate on the movie, and calling it the fake media. YouTubers are the fake media. Now, before I start digging into these movies, I want to emphasize that I actually really like Snyder. I think Zack Snyder is just a ball of joy and sunshine. He seems like a really chill dude who genuinely enjoys making movies. I like majority of his movies. I only really dislike 2 of his movies. 300 is definitely his best movie. I haven't seen Watchmen in a while, but I remember really enjoying it. Even when his movies aren't good, at least they're either funny or entertaining.
We hate snitches, so...
Which Rebel Moon is not, unfortunately. I may disagree on how he views DC and its characters, but at least he made those movies out of the enjoyment of filmmaking. At least he had fun. And you could tell he had fun making these movies. So let's see if I have more fun watching the rated R cuts than I did the PG-13 versions. I've been anticipating this movie because I had hoped that they would add more scenes with characterization and... wait. 3.5 hours?
What? What?
So yeah, part 1 is 3 hours and 12 minutes, not including the credits, and it truly does not need to be this long. So real quick to sum up this movie, this is a story about an ex-soldier slash general slash bodyguard for the princess that she killed.
Do it, kill her!
She lives as a humble farmer until the evil Empire comes to the planet and demands their grain, or else. At first she doesn't want to help and wants to run away until she decides not to. So she sets out to find a group of hardened warriors with her love interest, Gunnar. She and Gunnar meet a pilot who is very willing to take these strangers across the galaxy for some reason. You know, it would really suck if he betrayed them later. So they set out and find an animal tamer, a woman with swords, an old drunk general, and she was originally going to recruit Cyborg and a handful of his guys, but they're betrayed by the pilot. The Empire shows up, and for some reason, the pilot really wants Gunnar to kill his love interest, but it backfires on him. A fight breaks out, and a lot of people die. Cyborg dies, Cora kills the main bad guy, and they go back to her home planet to give her friends food. But the main bad guy didn't die, because he's a cyborg or something. Part 2 is where the real action is, baby. Part 2 is about the crew getting back to Cora's planet to tell everyone the main bad guy is dead, but the nice soldier is like, ooh, I just got off the phone with them, they're still on their way. So they quickly get to farming so they can use the grain as a barrier around the village in hopes that they don't just blow them up from orbit because they know the Empire still wants their grain. Before the coming battle, they dance around a bit, are gifted some flags that represent themselves, and take turns sharing their sad backstories. The battle to protect the village begins, and a lot of people die on both sides. Cora infiltrates the big bad guy ship, she blows it up twice, gets into a fight with the main bad guy again, kills him again, and then Gunnar dies because he got shot earlier. Then the movie ends with the crew agreeing to go on an adventure to find the princess that Cora thought she killed.
My heart is taken out of me.
Okay, now that you know the gist of the movie, let's talk about it. Before I get into the negatives, I want to highlight the positives. First off, I'm really glad that both of these movies don't start with an exposition dump. Instead, we get to see the cruelty of the Empire, which also shows why this guy was so willing to turn on the Empire later in the movie. I also really liked the new scenes with Jimmy. It was weird that he ran off in the censor cut and then just showed up with deer antlers at the end of the movie. We get to see him figure out his purpose without his connection to Princess Issa. So I'm glad he got a little more screen time. That's about the newest thing in this movie, but it's still really random. I prefer Jimmy to actually be the one to interact with the villagers more, but it still feels like he's the B plot that doesn't really affect the A plot. I also wish he didn't narrate every single time we saw him. Zack is a visual director, so it's no surprise these movies look so good. There's some scenes in this movie that look absolutely sick. And that goes for the set design and the costumes too. You can tell Zack knew exactly what he wanted the movies to look like, and it's pretty cool. Zack also has some really cool concepts that I wish were fleshed out a little more. The dudes, or gals, collecting teeth is interesting, but they never explore where the idea came from, whose idea it was, or what they were going to do with the book. Was it a book? I also wish the giant woman from Steven Universe was a bigger part of the plot. A living being powering a warship seems like a pretty big deal, and I originally thought it was going to play a bigger part of the story, but no. Korra briefly mentions it in the first movie, and then they have a psychic conversation in the second movie right before she dies. Okay, now let's get into the negatives. The slow-mo is too long and too frequent, the characters have no personality aside from Gunnar and the animal tamer, and they barely interact with each other aside from one little argument at the end of a 3-hour movie. They have no opinions or personal input on anything that's going on in the plot. For example, Nemesis laments about how revenge can lead to your death after she kills the spider lady, which led me to believe that she doesn't agree with the idea of revenge, but when they get to Titus, she has nothing to say to Korra when she offers revenge to him. I don't know why Zack is so allergic to having these characters interact in meaningful ways. The only meaningful conversation they have is in part 2 when they go around the table and one by one explain their tragic backstory. And even then it's not a real conversation, they're each just explaining their stories one by one. Oh, I forgot, we have some extended backstory. Let's see what new information we learn. Still absolutely nothing. And there's like no tension in this movie. Characters are shown to be put in situations where, oh no, are they gonna make it out? But I just don't care about their well-being because I don't know them. I don't know who these characters are as a person. The movie hasn't given me a reason to care about any of these characters. And it's really apparent when we're introduced to Cyborg and then 2 scenes later he just dies. Like, I still don't know who this dude is. And they have the audacity to cut back to this woman getting angry when I don't know what their relationship was like in the first place. They had one interaction and that's it. And it really sucked when I realized I cared more about Night Soldier than I did for any of the characters because the movie actually gave me a reason to care about him. And you can't say, oh, you're supposed to watch these movies all together as if it were one movie, or you'll get more information on the characters in the second movie, because you still have to give the audience a reason to care about these characters in the first third. It really does seem like the people that really like this movie are only talking about how good it looks. I shouldn't watch a movie for 5 of the 6 hours and not care about these characters. And I'm not gonna suddenly care about these characters when everyone has an exposition dump of their past in one scene. That's not how this works. Their past and character traits should be shown to us gradually over the course of the movie. It shouldn't be told to us all at once. If you're looking at this as a 6-hour movie, that scene happens near the end of the 6-hour movie. I've spoken with a couple Snyder fans on the internet, and they swore up and down that all the problems we had about the PG-13 cuts would be solved in the rated R cuts. Which, what a surprise, isn't true. Why did Korra even agree to recruit any of these people, and why are they special? Titus is a general, so he can come up with battle strategies. Makes sense, recruit him. Nemesis has glowing swords. Okay, that's something. Is she a good fighter? Not really. She spends most of the final battle fighting the same 3 dudes, and it has the exact same slow-mo fight as the PG-13 version, and for some reason, she suffers from the Wonder Woman effect. Her theme plays every time she's in a fight, and I mean every time. We got an animal tamer. Is he gonna ride into battle with griffins or something? No, he's gonna run into battle swinging hatchets. Why? Why did you recruit this man? He doesn't do anything but swing hatchets. But it's okay, the soldiers don't know how to aim, and they miss him all the time. It's fine. And I don't remember this girl's name. Do you know her name? What's so special about her? She shoots a gun like everyone in the movie. These characters feel like they're picked at random because they're good at one thing. These characters aren't interesting or develop in any meaningful way. You can sit here and tell me that Nemesis develops from a warrior seeking revenge to a warrior fighting to protect other people. And to that I say, when did they show us that she was seeking revenge? Did she only join the team out of revenge against the Empire? Did I miss that scene too?
Maybe we have a chance.
I'll join you.
If I have a chance to spill the blood of officers of the realm.
What about Gunnar? How does he develop as a character? You'd expect these characters to be fleshed out in a 3.5-hour movie, but they're not. We have to waste time on long drawn out slow-mo action sequences. And I know it's a cliche at this point to criticize Zack for using excessive slow-mo, but it's so frequent and lasts for way too long for me to overlook. I really feel like these movies could be a lot shorter if you would just cut some of the slow-mo out. A solid 20 minutes could be shaved out of these movies off of slow-mo alone. Slow-mo alone, say that 5 times fast. Slow-mo alone, slow-mo alone, slow-mo alone, slow-mo alone. Maybe it's not that hard? And some scenes that aren't in slow-mo are just paced weirdly. Look how long it takes characters to react. Why did it take so long? Here's another example. Who is this character? Why is she in the movie? I don't know, bro. Shut up, she looks cool. I understand you would have scenes that last a little longer because it is a director's cut, but I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. It's more of Zack's originally intended cut than it is a director's cut. If Netflix said, go all out, Zack, you can have whatever cut you want, it doesn't need to be PG-13, these would be the movies that will come out. There wouldn't be a PG-13 cut. It would be just this, and Zack has already said this. Also, characters make some strange decisions in this movie. In part 1, Cora wants to find General Titus, so her genius plan is to walk into a bar and announce the fact that she's looking for him. In this scene, instead of Beer Guy using a gun in his hand to kill Noble, he tackles him and gives him the funniest backhand I've seen in a movie in a long time. If your swords are basically plasma blades, why didn't you start the fight off with them glowing? You had some time. Nemesis does a little roll and grabs her sword, but doesn't use it to attack the spider lady. Then later, the spider lady tried to choke her out, knowing she has swords in her hands. And you know what happens next? In this scene, Cora's in a ship and kills these guys, and then she decides to climb up to the next level. Why didn't she just leave in the first place? What's stopping her from just leaving? The exit is right there. But the worst decision being made by characters in this movie are the Empire's soldiers. They wait patiently to get killed, they run towards their enemies with guns instead of just shooting them, or they just don't shoot them at all. Characters will stand out in the open, and the soldiers will purposefully miss. I didn't even say anything about the music. This music has Justice League music for some reason. It is being composed by the same dude that did Justice League, so it's not really stealing if it's stealing from yourself. So I feel like Zack went to the composer and was like, hey, I'm making Justice League 2. Can you compose for me? And he said, sure, why not? And then when he got it back, he just slapped it on the Rebel Moon. Real quick before I end this video, this movie is just uglier than the censored version for some reason. The colors are all washed out and desaturated, and it has this filter I would find on my vlog camera. Real quick, I'm just now noticing as I'm editing that these movies aren't in the top 10, nor is Netflix promoting them, and I don't know why that is. I honestly thought more people would have been watching these movies. It's probably why, probably why no one on the internet is talking about it right now. I think everybody just kind of forgot about Rebel Moon. It might just be the marketing, honestly. In the end, Rebel Moon, the director's cut, which is what Netflix is calling it, even though Zack officially announced the new names of these movies for some reason, is basically the same movie. There are small plot points that help develop the movie, but it's not enough. If you've seen the PG-13 cuts, you've basically seen the R cuts, just without the gore, the sex, longer scenes, and Jimmy wandering the fields. It's not the worst movie I've seen, or even the worst movie I've seen this year. It's marginally better than the PG-13 cuts, but that's like saying Sharknado is marginally better than Sharknado 2. All in all, I'll give both of these movies a 4.5 out of 10. Did they explain why she's called the Scargiver?